welcome to the Adaptive Insights webinar. We'll just wait one more minute to see if we have a few stragglers joining. We're expecting a few people on the webinar today. My name is Donna Paoletti. I work at Corporate Renaissance Group. I've been here for 16 years, and we've been partnered with Adaptive for almost 3 years now, so I'll be walking you through. I'm in charge of the implementations and the product line here at Corporate Renaissance Group. So the agenda for this webinar is to talk a little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group. I know some of you are on the call or are existing clients, and some of you are new to Corporate Renaissance Group, so I'll give you a brief overview. Then what we'll do is we'll actually provide an overview of Adaptive Insights, and we'll actually get into the demo so we can see the product, and I will leave time at the end for questions and answers as well. So a little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group. We were founded in 1989, so over 25 years now, coming up on our 30-year anniversary. We're a private company headquartered in Ottawa, Canada, with no debt, no venture capital, and we do have locations worldwide. We have a U.S. location, India, South Africa, Hong Kong. We have been profitable every year we've been in business, and this is important for companies to understand that we are viable. We've been around for a long time, and we hope to be around for a very long time as well. You know, our success really is based on our customer base. We have 4,000 plus customers around the globe. You know, they range from smaller customers to larger billion-dollar corporations, anywhere, you know, from 50 to thousands of employees. And you know, why have we been in business for so long? Why have we been profitable? Why do we have companies across or customers across the world? It's really because of our team. We have a combination of business and technology folks, so we really do try and understand both the business needs and the technology needs of our customers. A little bit about what Corporate Renaissance Group does, for those of you who don't know us. We actually, you know, operate around a level 7 principle, and this is our framework that we've developed. And we offer both in the cloud and on-premise solutions. Some of our solutions are unique to Corporate Renaissance Group, where we've actually developed these software tools based on our customers' needs. For example, we have FlexABM and activity-based costing software, and we do add-on products for Microsoft Dynamics GP. We also implement. What we're talking about here today is going to be in the CPM and budgeting space, where we're talking about Adaptive Insights. And you'll notice we do have another product called Board under this umbrella as well. And the real differentiator between these two is an on-cloud versus, or in the cloud versus on-premise solution, so depending on your needs. And what I wanted to talk about before we actually got into the software itself is to, you know, why would you even be considering a CPM or budgeting solution? And typically what we found is that the CFOs, currently they're in an accounting type role where they're very, you know, day to day they're doing transactions and accounting type functions, and more we found that these CFOs want to move into a more strategic input into the organization, and they really are trying to move towards that. So the goal is that if we can free up your time from transaction type tasks and allow you to do more strategic thinking for your organization, you're going to benefit, and the organization is going to benefit in a whole. And that what that means is that you do need to transform your CPM process if you're actually you know, working in Excel and some sort of inefficient systems like that. And really, you know, what are we talking about when we're talking about transforming the CPM process? Well, we're talking about just moving beyond the basic budgeting and reporting. We're talking about centralizing data, you know, improving the timing and accuracy so there's only one version of the truth. We have a self-service environment where you can, you know, look at your dashboards and KPIs and reports on a regular basis with minimal IT footprint. And we're trying to enable the users of this information to get the data into their hands. The platform as well allows you to continuous forecasting and what-if scenarios. So, you know, we know that business isn't static and it changes, you know, on a day-to-day basis. So if you want to see the implications of certain changes on your budgeting model, you can certainly very easily do that in the Adaptive Wide. And most importantly, it allows collaboration, you know, within the organization. Everyone from production to marketing to sales, finance, IT, all your support systems and your client-facing departments can collaborate, and everybody's looking at one version of the truth. So that's the goal of adaptive. Now, you know, most people use spreadsheets. Excel, we found probably 80% of the folks that we've talked to so far are using Excel to do their budgeting. It's very manual, it's inefficient, it's error prone. Anybody knows that, you know, your formulas and links can break, and it's really not a collaborative solution. So, you know, if 10 people are contributing, you have to pass the same spreadsheet around to those 10 different individuals and get their input, and sometimes changes are lost. So, you know, Adaptive Insights tries to, you know, overcome those what we'll call challenges with Excel. You know, it's fast, it's easy to deploy, it's accurate, it's affordable. There's zero IT footprint required. You know, basically once you decide to go that route, you have your instance turned on and away you go. And really, companies of all sizes can benefit because it's flexible. You can make it suit your needs and, you know, the way that you want to do your budgeting. So it's very configurable in terms of that. And of course, on the other side, we have, you know, the more what I'll call enterprise applications, which are very, very difficult to deploy. They take a long time, very expensive and IT intensive. So Adaptive really is a nice fit in the middle. So what we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about the software itself before we get into it, so you'll understand the capabilities, and then I'll show you the demo itself. So who is Adaptive? Well, they've been around for quite a few years now. Their customer base keeps growing. Their growth in percentages and partners is outstanding. They're always #1 in market share and customer satisfaction on all sorts of different indicator reports, and they're starting to get some big name customers in there. In Canada, over 125 Canadian customers are using Adaptive, and the nice thing is that it's applicable across all industries. So you'll see there are some software and high-tech companies. There's some manufacturing companies in Canada, nonprofits, healthcare, consumer. So it really is applicable to different organizations, different sizes. And what does it mean when we actually talk about Adaptive Insights? Well, it's a suite of products, and it's modules based, so you get to pick and choose what you want. The core of it is the adaptive planning piece, of course, and then there are other what I'll call add-on modules in terms of discovery, which is the dashboards and dials and consolidation. And the beauty of it is that you get to pick and choose what you want to use and go from there. And there is a built-in integration as well. So we'll talk about each of these pieces in a little bit more detail before we get into the software itself. So in terms of integration, there are two sort of integration sources within Adaptive. One is basically from Excel. Very, very simply, you know, you can create extracts from your source files. Think of your ERPs, for example, and then you can import that data into your Adaptive instance. It can be financial data, such as account balances or transactions, and it can be non-financial data, you know, any sorts of drivers, head counts, days of the week, those sorts of things, drivers that you want to use to either move costs or report on. Along with the out-of-the-box, so the integration with Excel is included out of the box, and it's quite easy to get data into Adaptive. Along with that, they have what's called Adaptive Integration, where you can actually directly connect to your databases, your ERP databases. So whether they're ACPAC or Epicor or Dynamics GP, you know, JD Edwards, any of those databases, we can actually go in and create an automatic connection. So there are options to either automatically schedule it every night to pull in data in, or to be able to pull the data at your command with the push of a button. So there's different ways, and it's nice because then you're looking at one single version of the truth with minimal input from you, the user, to get the data in there. And this is typically used to pull in the actual account balances so that we can compare actuals to budgets when we're going through our process. So as I mentioned earlier, adaptive planning, that module is the actual core to the Adaptive Planning suite of products. And this is the module that actually provides you with the comprehensive budgeting, planning, and forecasting tools that allows you to do the modeling for your budget. And what we found with our clients, it's helped to reduce their cycle times by up to 90% because it is so collaborative. There's no consolidation required. The roll-ups are automatic and everything is back and forth. So very, very easy to use. What you'll do, you'll see that it's got a an Excel-like interface, quite easy to use, and it's really meant to be self-service, so there's no coding required for you to create your plans and forecasts. And I should mention that Adaptive is entirely web-based. It's in the cloud, so it's all managed there. It's easy access, minimum IT footprint. So at the end of your planning, you know, you're doing your budgeting, and you can have specific sheets depending on your needs. So for travel, think of something like, you know, I would like my folks to budget a number of trips times travel cost per trip, and the trips can be either domestic or international, and they have different rates. It accommodates that. It accommodates personnel budgeting, so you can actually budget down to the employee level or, you know, below for existing employees or new anticipated employees, and depending on the level of detail you want, it can go all the way down to, you know, each and every benefit that the employee is entitled to, along with their salaries. The nice thing is, once you're done all of that, we can actually link them to your income statements, your balance sheets, your cash flows, and we'll get the results of a budgeted financial statements out of those. Quite nice. The next piece is the adaptive discovery piece. So adaptive discovery, sorry, I'm going to go back here. What's adaptive discovery? This is actually the data visualization and analytics piece. So think of this as a pretty front end that's put on where it allows you to develop dashboards, metrics. You can do exception reporting and conditional formatting. You can look at trends. It's got some statistical analysis in there to look at projections going forward. And again, it's meant to be self-service. So you create these dashboards with the help of your administrator, or you know, you go through the user guide. And each and every user can have their own unique dashboard to what's important to them, and they can just go in, log into their instance, take a look at the dashboard and see where things are at this current point in time. So it's always live based on the one version of the truth. It really does make it easier to analyze the results and trends there. Consolidation, we'll talk a little bit about that. What consolidation is, this is think of it as the financial accounting consolidation. So when you have a company that owns another company, whether it's, you know, 100% or 50%, you can do consolidation, and you can take a look at the combined budgets and actuals for these companies. And the benefit of this module is that it actually cuts the time spent on closing and reporting on consolidation. So what you can do is you can create the journal entries and the intercompany eliminations and those sorts of things. And it covers the entire close to disclose process. So, you know, you can create your journal entries and your eliminating entries and those sorts of things, and define the ownership relationships between the two. So it's quite helpful. Not all companies use this. It just depends on their needs. Last up is the reporting piece. Okay, adaptive reporting, it really allows you to do, we'll call it budget reporting and transaction reporting, depending on the level that you built into your model. And everything is done through the web, and it's really based on a drag and drop report builder. So if you're familiar with pivot tables in Excel, it's very, very similar to that, where all of your you know, your accounts and your time dimensions and everything that you've set up in the model to do your budgeting is available in your reports, so you can actually start to report on these. And once you create your reports, you can, you know, save them as a report pack or library so that they're automatically refreshed going forward. So it's very, very easy for you to keep your, or create, you know, board management reports and different sets of reports. There is another add-on piece called Office Connect and Excel for Planning. So for Office Connect, you can actually connect Microsoft Excel to your adaptive instance. So if you have a set of Excel reports that you've actually already created and you would like to leverage those reports and point them to the adaptive instance, you can certainly do that. And then you can also link to Word and PowerPoint documents. So it allows the updating of these regular reports to be done quite seamlessly. And then again, the reporting directly really in adaptive is meant to be self-service, and it's meant to be exploratory for you guys to, you know, go in and dig down and see why numbers are the way they are and what's driving those costs. So I mentioned there's a dynamic connection with Adaptive Connect where you can link to your adaptive instance. You can refresh the data, do all your formatting, and everything is flowing out. It's quite nice. So the beautiful thing with that is a lot of our clients, because they're using Excel, they're very comfortable with Excel. They like the formatting in Excel. You can leverage all of that with the Adaptive Connect piece. And then the Excel planning piece is quite new. It's just been released, and it allows you, previously Adaptive used to be just a one-way connection to Excel where you could export data from Excel or from Adaptive into Excel and then do your reporting. Now the Excel planning piece actually allows you to do your planning in Excel and push that data back to Adaptive. So it's a two-way communication now, which is quite nice. We're almost ready to go here. I'll mention that you know, the Adaptive product is available on mobile and tablets and those sorts of things. So if you've got people out in the field who want to use it and do budgets remotely, they can certainly log in with their tablets because everything is browser based, so there's no restrictions in terms of the hardware that you need there. And just to recap why we would be interested and why we would be looking at Adaptive, well, you know, it's certainly fast to deploy. It's going to reduce your monthly cycle times and your budget cycle times if you're doing consolidations and budgets in Adaptive. It's fast and it's accurate because there's only one version of the truth. Anytime you make a change in Adaptive, your reports are automatically updated, so everybody's looking at the same version of the truth. And it really is very easy to use. It's very, very similar to Excel. And you know, there's no links to break and that sort of thing, and it is affordable. So what we'll do now is we'll actually take a look at the product itself, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this, and I'm going to go right into my browser here. So I've got a browser open. It's compatible with Firefox, Internet Explorer, Chrome, all those sorts of things. So I'm going to log in here. I'll just have to get my password. And you can see I'm just simply on the login page. So if you do go purchase Adaptive, they'll give you, you know, your credentials to log into your instance, and then you can create your own users and that sort of thing once you get in there with your administrative privileges. So I'm just going to log in here. Okay, so you all should be seeing my home page right now. So this is entirely configurable, and it's each user can define their own home page. And what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at actually the process tracker. So I should say, you know, everything that I can see is based on my login credentials because we set security, and I've logged in as an administrator, so I'm going to have full rights on this particular version. What I will do towards the end of the demo is just log in as a different user, so you'll get an idea of the type of restrictions that you can actually see as we're walking through the model. So Process Tracker, what is it? It's a optional module, and what it does is it allows you to create processes and tasks and assign, you know, these tasks to individuals so that you can come in and you can take a look at a glance and see where things are at, if things are due early, if they're completed, if they're late, and all of these tasks are quite they're user defined. You can assign them to individuals. So, you know, your accounting staff or the people in your finance department might have a different set of tasks compared to the people in your HR department. They can be things related to the budget, you know, set up my billing rates, set up my assumptions, those sorts of things. And then you can very quickly come in and see where things are at. The nice thing is if you do enable your adaptive instance for emails, anytime a task is assigned to an individual, that individual will get an email notification that they've been assigned that task, so you can, you know, they can go in and take a look at it there. The other part of the workflow is what we actually call workflow, and this really at the basic level is it allows you to track the status of each and every budget. So this is my organization structure. I have my overall company, I have company 100 or company A, operations, etc. So you can see the status of each and every individual in here. And as I go through, and if I'm a budget contributor and I submit my budget, I'll show it as submitted. And then the workflow notifications, again, if you have your email set up, they will allow you to send notices out to the, your managers, I'll call them. So as let's drill down into my organization level here and say, as Sales North, if I submit my budget, the manager for the whole United States will actually get an email saying that my budget was submitted, and he can either approve or reject it, and it moves up the chain as you go forward until the entire budgeting process is complete there. But most of the people will be spending their time on sheets, and these are data entry sheets. So what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at these, and these are really, set up by the administrator once, and then everybody has access depending on the level in the organization. Okay, and what it does is it allows you to, plan at various categories. So I was talking earlier about how if you wanted to have a specific travel sheet set up because you don't want people to just put in a dollar amount, you want them to be able to justify their budget, for example, you can go in here and you can add line items and justify the budget. And at the end of the day, we'll see we're for Sales North, we've got a total travel budget of $44,000, and you can see the line items that make up that budget. And to add a new item, if I was the actual Sales North person entering, I could just go in and fill out my information, and then away I go. So the costs are going to be automatically calculated based on the length of the trip and the type of travel that I'm putting in here. So we can just see, I won't put it all in, but I'll just say, let's pick today's date, and I'll say I'm going on a 2-day trip, and then I'll pick, we'll go, there we go. And I'll click Save to save those results, and it should automatically calculate and show the impact of that line item. And you can see now that I've added this last line item, and it's calculating based on the rates. And how does it do that? Well, we set up some assumptions based on the cost per day or the cost per travel trip, so that it's combining the per diem plus the airfare, the hotel, etc. And we've got all those assumptions built in. The assumptions can either be specific to certain areas, so each area or each region or each organization level can have their own assumptions, or they can be global assumptions for the company as a whole, and then they can roll out to everyone within that company. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look at the expense sheet, just because this is a typical of accounts and organization levels. One thing that I wanted to point out here is that you're actually working on a specific budget version. So there's an actual version, and then we've got different versions of our budgets and or forecasts. So you can see right now my default is the 2015 working budget. It's in bold, and then I have or can have some what-if scenarios, and it's very, very easy once you create a budget version to create a new budget version by simply copying everything in the existing version to the new version. Make whatever changes you need. So for what-if scenarios, that's typically the approach that people use, is they copy a full version over. And also for forecasting, if you've got a 2017 budget and you're starting to replace your January, February, March with actuals, you can do a forecasted version where you're slowly replacing the budgets with the actual dollars as they occur, and see what the impact and how close you are to meeting your targets. So that's the versions here. You can create any number once you create them, and if the budgets are complete, you can lock them down so people can't go in and make any changes going forward. So what you'll notice here on this expense sheet is that we've got accounts listed down the side, and how you want those accounts displayed is up to you, and what accounts you want to see on these sheets is up to you. Right now we've just pulled in all of our expenses, and we've asked that they start in an expanded roll-up. Okay. I'm going to go here. This is our organization structure. So all of your data points on these types of sheets are a combination of accounts, what level in the org structure you're at, and then of course the months that we're looking at. So what you'll notice is if I go up to the entire company level, every cell is grayed out. And what that means is those are read-only cells. So I'm not able to go in and make changes at the overall company level. And what this is meant to do is put the ownership and responsibility back on the individual cost centers or business units that are actually doing their budgeting. So if I want to go back down to Sales North, what I'm going to see is I'm going to see some of my cells are no longer read-only, and I can go ahead and make whatever changes I want. So if I, under my training, if I want to add in an item, I'll go in and I'll add it and I'll click Save, and then my total amount has been updated. It is updated for everybody everywhere to see, if these accounts are available to all. It's based on the security and the logins. And what you'll notice also on this sheet is that we have some purple triangles in the bottom colors. So or in the bottom of the cells. What does that mean? That means there's actually a formula in there. So, we've got a formula for new hire training, and it's based on some assumptions that we set up based on start month and new hire training costs, for example. So I know there's a new person that started and my training is $180 for that person. It's automatically going to get populated, so as soon as I add a new individual in March, I'm going to assign that training cost to them if I so choose. You'll notice that some of these, again, for Sales North are grayed out. They're read-only because they're formulas, and I don't want to give the ability to Sales North to override these specific calculations. But if he so chose and said, oh, this is a special executive individual, I want to bump this up to $600 for this particular month, you could certainly do that by keeping it editable. And in that case, you're actually overwriting the formula and you're putting your value in there. You have the ability as well to enter notes on a particular cell, for example, and you can click on here. You can either enter notes on the sheet or you can enter notes on a cell. So if you wanted to add a note and you want to say executive training off-site, for example, and I'll click OK. And now what you'll see is there's actually a note with a little red triangle that's flagged on that cell, and you can pull those notes onto your reports if you so choose, just for information purposes. So it does really make collaboration easier, because rather than going, having to find the individual who input this number and ask them why, they've actually documented directly in the software to say, this is my reasoning for this particular value for this particular month. So it's quite nice. Okay. There are different ways to get data in the model. You can import the data, as I talked about earlier, and you can also very quickly populate this data. If I had $100 and I wanted to copy it to all of my periods going forward, I could say copy to the end, and it's copied. You'll notice it's in blue. It's in blue because I haven't saved it. As soon as I save it, it'll click back and it'll change into my black font, and you'll see that it's there. You can also have the ability to do some advanced copying. So I could say, look, I want to stop it at a certain time. I want to increment it by a certain percentage or a certain value. So if I said I wanted to go up $100 a month, I could say OK, and then you can see that it's going up $100 a month for the range that I've got, and I'm going to click Save there. And then the nice thing is as well is that once you put in your amount and you say, oh my gosh, that's way too high, I need to be able to reduce that, for example, then what I could say is, look, I know I have to cap this at 10,000, so I'm going to put 10,000 in for my year, and it's going to ask me how you want to break it back. So if I just want to do it proportionally based on what I had in there before, I can do that. And these are the out-of-the-box break back methods. You can create any number of assumptions and then assign them to the break back so that you'll have those in your selection list as well. So if you do custom breakbacks based on days in the month or something like that. So very flexible to get data in and out, very easy. You'll see subtotals for the different things. And what you can actually do is you'll notice you can budget below the GL account level. So, right here for training, rather than budget at my specific GL account level like I'm doing for equipment, I'm actually adding a split onto this account, and you can see it's as simple as doing this. And I'm justifying and building the building up the value that is in that specific account. So there's my new split that I've just added. If I go in and put a number on here, you're going to see that my total for my training is now going to be updated to reflect that number. So it's a very, very easy way to give individuals, if you don't want to create a very detailed sheet like we looked at for travel, you can give them, allow them to do splits on accounts to justify that way. So quite nice there. We're looking at a view here of, all of our accounts for one specific department, but you may actually, say, look, I have somebody who's responsible, my IT or individual is responsible for all telephone contracts, for example. So what you can do is you can actually, view this report or this sheet by the reverse view of swapping the columns and the rows. So all of a sudden now I'm looking at all of my accounts are in my list up here. I'm looking at telephone, and I am budgeting my telephone expense for the entire company across the organization. So this particular individual can go in and do that. One other thing that I'll show you here as well, because sometimes you have, specific accounts that should only be budgeted again for specific departments, for example. So what you can do is you can put, it's called customizations for sublevels. It really allows you to put restrictions on those accounts, and it's really quite straightforward. So I'm looking at my expenses here, and I'm drilling down to my specific levels that I want, and I'll just keep going down here for a moment. And let's just say, the telephone expense. If I wanted to restrict that to a certain operation only, I'll drill down, I'll find Canada, and I'll find Sales North. If I wanted to restrict that to Sales North, I could make it hidden for everybody else, and you'll see at the bottom a check means edible, read only, hidden. And then for Sales North, I'm saying this is the only level that I want it to be editable at. Hang on, we'll go drill down there. I've got the wrong selection made. And if we wanted only to be made available for product management, what you'll do is you'll just keep clicking along. So for each and every account, for each and every level in your org structure, you can certainly restrict the access to which accounts you want people to be able to budget it against. And that's important because you don't want to give people a blank canvas. They will budget against it, and then you'll have to go back and manage it and tell them that they're not allowed to budget against those certain activities or accounts, I should say. Let me just show you on the org structure here. You can only have one organization structure within your organization, but what you can do is you can actually assign each level of your organization structure to a certain currency, for example. So if we've got Canada here, we can actually see that the currency for Canada is in Canadian dollars. So anytime we log in as Canada and we take a look at our thing, we're going to see the information in Canadian dollars. But when you look at your company overall, you can see that my overall company is in US dollars. So what that means is you set up a exchange rate table, and it will automatically calculate all of those exchanges for you there. So I'll just go back here to my expense sheet for one more moment, and I'll just show you the Explore cell thing that we have on here, because it allows you to investigate and see where dollars are coming from. So, if me in Sales North would like to understand, gosh, I'm getting charged $29,000 for my salary expense in May 2015. Where did that come from? I can actually explore that cell and take a look and see where the information is coming from. And I'm going to go ahead here, and it's going to pop up a screen, and it's going to show me, where the information is coming from. It's coming from, allow, always allow. Let's go that. Okay. Oh, that didn't like that. There it is there. Okay, so here's the Explore Cell option. So you can see what I'm looking at is the 29,214. There is an audit trail, so if you turn this on, you can actually see who's made changes to what data and when. I don't believe it's set up in this instance here. There are no changes to the audit trail here. But you can see this is actually coming from the personnel salary sheet, and the evaluated formula is 29. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from all of my individuals that I I have on this sheet. So if I look at Sean Jones, and I'll show you the personnel sheet in a moment, but I can see Sean's an account executive. He's tagged to Sales North. So you can very, very quickly drill down and see where the information is coming from and how it is made up. And this information, if you want to create a report, you can certainly create a report for that as well. But it's meant to be investigative so that you can take a look and start to see where information is coming from. So let's go and take a look at the personnel planning sheet just so you can see what that looks like. Adaptive does give you an out-of-the-box personnel planning sheet, and then we usually tweak it to make sure that it suits your needs. But this sheet here basically has your employees listed. It's got their job titles, it's got their state of residence, it's got any comments, it's got a start date and an end date, and this is important because if they leave within the year, their salary will be prorated for the period that they're there. And then you can actually tag, whether this person is working or how much time the person works, if they're less than full-time. If they are, have a certain benefits rate, in Canada here we're used to, family versus individual, for example. You can tag that individual to those benefit rates. If there are any anticipated raises, you can mark the raise date and the percentage. You can say whether these people are paid hourly versus yearly, and then we can pull in their salaries amount and tag. So any sorts of things. These are all entirely configurable. So, we can certainly set it up the way that you need it. And the nice thing is as well is it's very, very easy for you to do what we call people allocation. So, if you have an individual that's actually assigned to one specific cost center and that individual decides that he's actually going to be working across different cost centers in the across the organization, then you can tag that individual to those different cost centers and his salary costs can be allocated out accordingly. So when we're looking at William Clark and he's got a salary of $110,000, if he does 20% of his work for Sales North, but he also does some time for Canada and the UK, and here are the percentages by month, so you can decide to change these in a certain month if he's only sharing or being shared for a certain period of time, and it will allocate those costs out. You don't necessarily have to allocate them out. Some people say, look, I don't care where he works, his costs will always stay in there. So again, entirely configurable by you, and the way that it works is, if we set up our CPP and EI calculations, we can actually use the result of this to actually calculate the monthly CPP and EI and put those into the relevant expense accounts on our income statement as well. So let's just take a quick look here at the another type of sheet. So this is what we call a modeled sheet. So you basically build what columns that you want to see here. Let's take a look at a cube sheet. We'll look at product sales. So this is very similar to the expense sheet that we saw earlier, but it allows you, instead of just having accounts and our level of our org structure, again I see Sales North and I can see all of the different levels that I have here, it allows you to pull up to an additional 7 dimensions on the sheet. So this is typically used for, revenue or sales planning, and I could say, look, here's my particular products, here's my particular customers, and what I want to do is to be able to input, from a budget perspective, how many units I think I'm going to sell. I have a set price that I've set up as an assumption based on the particular product. If I need to offer that customer a discount, I can put the discount, and it will calculate the revenue, the associated costs, and the gross profit for these particular sales for this particular customer. And then in turn, we can use this particular sheet to feed our revenue sheets that we have on our income statement. So very, very, very straightforward there. And what you'll do is you'll see, if we move to the forecasted version, just so we can see, it will actually show you what happens when we start to combine our budgets versus our actuals here. So now, I've got actuals are always displayed in green, so I can see what actually happened for the first quarter, and then I can see the budgets for the remaining. So it'll calculate and show the impact of actual and budget. So you can, continue to create these versions and rolling forwards. As I come to the end of Q2 and I have my Q2 actuals, I can replace my my forecast with that, and it's really quite easy to create those versions. I'll just show you quickly here on the import here, integration. I talked about how we have different types of integration here. So you can either integrate directly through, to your ERP and have it automated. That's something that we would help you set up as a one-time thing and define the fields. Otherwise, you can integrate through Excel, as I mentioned earlier. And very, very simple. What you have to decide is, are you importing actuals, or are you importing into a specific budget? If you're importing into a budget, you would actually, say which budget you're importing into, and where's the import coming from, the spreadsheet. And then if you wanted to import into a specific modeled account, like most people, when they get their, their personnel, for example, that is going to be coming from some sort of HR system or an Excel file. So they already have that data set up for existing employees. So the typical way that we handle that is that we import the existing employees, and then we allow the folks to add new records just by simply clicking add a new line. So if once you create your modeled sheet, for each and every sheet that you create, you can very easily create an import template by going to this screen and just clicking on the download template, and it will tell you exactly what fields you need to populate to be able to import. Some fields are mandatory and some fields are optional, so it'll also give you that. So you have an instructions sheet page here that tells you if you want to import your personnel data, here's what you need to do, and then we have this is actually based on the actual modeled sheet that we have set up. So you have your title, your state of residence, your health benefits, etc., etc. Those are required. Then optional is the name, any comments, your start and end date, etc., etc., all the way as you go in. And then you'll see we have our months, and this is where we have our percentage allocations, whether they're 100% or for someone like William who was allocated to 3 different cost centers, you can have those as rows as well. So your unique combination here would be your level, which is your organization structure, and then your individual with your percentage allocation. So each and every sheet you can do that. Very, very easy to get data in and go from there. So quite nice. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to in here for a sec. I'm going to flip back. I'm going to go on my sheets, and I'm going to flip back to my working budget here. Okay. All right. So in terms of the underlying calculations, there's really no limit on what can actually be calculated as long as it's mathematically definable. We can certainly get it in. Some of the things that we've been doing are billable revenues for consultants. We've done project-based formulas. We've done a lot of formulas based on head counts, for example, and also IT costs. Many IT costs are calculated based on number of desktops, number of laptops, and those sorts of drivers. So as you're hiring a new person, you might want to automatically say, look, I want to assign them a laptop cost of $500, for example. So quite flexible in there. And you can really create as many assumptions that you need. So once you get all of the data in there, what you want to do is to be able to report on it. So the reports here that we're looking at come directly with adaptive planning, and then the discovery piece is an additional piece that's an add-on module. So we'll take a look at the actual reports that are built or available here. And we'll just open this up here. And it really is very, very easy to use. As part of your implementation, we usually include a 2-hour end user training. So everything that we've seen once it's set up, it's very, very easy to get in and navigate. And part of the end user training is actually building these reports. And they're meant to, again, to be very investigative and to build down. So you've got shared reports. Let's go in and take a look at our variance analysis, for example. So we can take a look, and we can look at our expense variance analysis for the current year. And we'll go in and we'll pull that up. So what you can see is we've got the same, expenses that we saw in our model. What we've done is we've pulled in an actuals version. We said 2014 actuals, 2015 budget, and we've created the variance here. So you can see those for the various quarters. You can do conditional formatting. So, if your variance is over 20%, let's highlight it in red, etc., etc. And you can create any sorts of number of parameters that you want to be able to drill down on. So in this case here, if I wanted to look at a specific division, I've created the organization structure as a level. I would select my Sales North, and then I would just generate my report for Sales North. And I should reiterate again, the security of these reports is based on your user profiles. So, as a Sales North person, if I log in, I would not be able to see anybody else's data, for example. And then I'll just show you very quickly how easy it is to build these reports. It's really basically like a pivot table in Excel. You just click on, let's build a new matrix report. And all of the accounts that you have in the model, so here are my GL accounts. I've got my expenses, and I would just simply drag and drop and see which expenses. So if I wanted to include my operating expenses, there I go. And then if I wanted to include a certain time, I could pull that in and say, look, I want fiscal year 16. And then if I wanted to have my organization level here as well, I could pull that in and nest it. And there I go. And, any sorts of dimensions or anything that I built in the model that I want to use for reporting purposes, if there was a certain tag, I could pull those in and just report on them that way. So as long as you have an account and a time dimension and your org level, away you go. And then you can run the report in a variety of formats. You can run it in Excel, in a new window. You can create your report pack library that I was talking about and push it out to Excel automatically. So there, very, very quickly, I pulled this report up. And you have the same Explorer capability that we saw earlier, where you can explore the cells and start to view the details. So if I drill down into payroll and I drill down into my total company, I can start to see where these dollar amounts came from. So of my 6.7 million, I've got my companies, etc., etc. So I can drill down and take a look at those. Quite easy to use, intuitive. And again, once you create these, you can save them as different formats. You can take snapshots and email them out, and away you go there. So very, very nice and easy to use. I'm not going to show you the Office Connect piece, but basically what it does is it allows you to open up Excel, connect it to your instance, and then all of those elements that we saw in our report, such as our accounts, our time, our dimensions, are also available in Excel, and you can drag and drop and create your reports directly within Excel. So it's nothing earth-shattering. It just allows you to create that direct link, which is quite wonderful here. What I do want to show you is Discovery, because this is something that you have not seen, and this is where we do our dashboards and our dials and our KPIs and our metrics. So each and every person can have their own Discovery dashboard set up, and back when I had showed you the other things, you can build all sorts of dials, KPIs, metrics, conditional formatting, color coding, and create your contacts. You can see what you're looking at here, and we're looking at a specific period, etc. And away you go. You create your dashboards, and it's quite a nice visual to be able to go in here and at the click of a button, you'll be able to see exactly where you're at in terms of what's important to you. Let's take a quick look at the consolidation piece here. This may or may not be applicable to a lot of folks, but what it allows you to do is, define your elimination and allocation rules, and you don't really have to build formulas or get people involved. You can define deliverables for these and assign them to the users and monitor their status, like the process tracking. So you would create an intercompany elimination process. And you have, there's a very simplistic view where you can match your eliminating entries so that you can actually see the journal entries there as well. So you get full visibility without having to run batches or jobs or processing, and it's really all the way from the start of the intercompany process to the end of the intercompany process. And what it does is it allows each individual company to actually plan and budget at their own level, and then as an organizer, you can, or the overall, somebody at the top of the organization, they can come in and see everything at the at the particular level that they're working at. Now what I want to do here is I just want to go back in and I want to show you what it means. We've got about 8 minutes left, and I do want to leave time for questions and answers. So what I want to do is I want to show you what it means when I actually log out and I log back in as a different user here. So the nice thing is too, because personnel data can be very, very confidential and sensitive, there are special restrictions where we can restrict access to personnel data as well, even depending on what level. So quite nice here. Right now, I've just logged in as Sales North, and this particular individual has a different homepage. He's got an announcements homepage. Or no, actually, this particular individual hasn't logged in yet today. So what he's seeing is, Adaptive will automatically broadcast some announcements to you folks, and it will be available when you log in so that you can actually see, they particularly do this when they want to let you know what's new, and when they're maintaining the system, they usually do it like on a Friday evening, and then they will go down and they will make an announcement that the system will be unavailable for a certain time. This particular announcement is talking about the new features that they just released earlier this month, which is great. So what I can do is I can say, okay, look, I've read that here, and as a company you can create your own announcements here. My particular home page is the welcome page, so I can see all of these things that have been set up, which is fine. And then as an individual, what you're going to see here is, because I'm logged in as Sales North, I no longer have access to any of those administrative things. So, I can't do the integration and importing because I haven't been given access to that. And when I look at my sheets, I have a limited list of sheets, but if I do go onto my expenses, what you'll see is that, yes, I still have my list of expenses, but when I go in and I want to look at, the organization structure, I am restricted to my level only because I have been assigned that level only by my administrators, and it's on an individual basis based on my logins. And again, all of these restrictions and securities will flow through to my reports, to my dashboards, and those sorts of things. So you'll never be able to see confidential data there. Okay, so that's basically, Adaptive in a nutshell. Very, very easy to use. Just to reiterate, very, very similar to Excel, where you can set up formulas. And, again, if you want to do a simple formula here, it's as simple as, 10 times 12, and then you can render it. Oh, got to save it, 10 times 12, and then render it across. Collaborative, so anytime a change is made here, it's automatically refreshed for anybody. You have security restrictions based on access, and there's never, any broken links. So these are automatically always linked to the underlying personnel sheets. Nobody could go in here and change that data, and everybody's looking at the same version of the truth. So very, very quickly you can get your data in and you can get it up and running, which is great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a look at some of the questions here. Okay. Somebody asked about the integration to the ERP systems. I had showed you on the PowerPoint earlier, but it can integrate to ACPAC, it can integrate to Epicor, it can integrate to Dynamics GP, it can integrate to NetSuite. There was a whole list of items, and we can certainly get that list out to you. What's involved is that you usually work with an Adaptive Insights person to define the fields that you would like to import. At a minimum, you need to be able to identify your organization structure, your accounts, and your levels. And then for transactions, there's 5 fields, like the date of the transaction, the type, the amount, and then as well you have the ability to define your own user-defined fields that you would like to bring in, as long as you can get that data in there, so that you'll be able to report on the actuals and transactions the way that you want to report. Well, somebody wanted to just see the assumptions here, so what I can do is I can just log back out and show you the assumptions that have been set up. Assumptions can be set up as a corporation as a whole, and again, you can set up drivers that are actually non-financial assumptions for individuals, for reporting and or allocation purposes. So let's just go take a quick look at that here. If I log back into my original instance with my administration privileges. Let's go here. I'll just click out, log in. Alrighty, And then we can go to our assumptions page here, and you'll see all of the assumptions that we've got built in here. So we've got our sales driver assumptions, where we took a look at, you know, our that sales sheet where we were budgeting the units sold and any discounts. This is actually a sheet that shows you for the specific companies my different products, their costs, their standard costs. It can show you your overhead costs, etc. And those are going to in turn be used to calculate the costs of my sales there. We've got personnel assumptions that are set up as well. So these are set up once for the whole company. They're usually set up as user-defined sheets, and then only, you know, the HR person or the administrator would maintain these tables, and everybody else just you know, gets the results of those based on our, you know, the personnel data that's entered into each one. This one here, we're looking at a U.S. model, so you can see that we've got our 401k rates, for example. And here's where we would say, look, our, you know, our raises come in this month. 4 represents April, and my raise percentage is 3%, et cetera, et cetera. So you set these up for the company as a whole, and then, you know, point to them to do your calculations based on other sheets. Okay, any other questions here? We talked about using non-financial drivers such as headcount and you know, number of desktops, those sorts of things. You know, particularly a lot of consulting companies, you know, do their budgeting based on the bodies and where these bodies are going to be working, so that could certainly be very easily accommodated. Okay. All right, well, that is, you know, adaptive in a nutshell. We do have, you know, different demo models, or we could certainly do a custom demo if you'd like to see more information and would like to arrange a one-on-one demo with you and your team if you want more information. And I'd be certainly happy to talk with you and answer any questions that you may have. Let me just show you my contact information here. My name, again, I mentioned at the onset of the presentation, is Donna Paoletti. Here's my contact information, my phone number, my email address. Certainly feel free to reach out. We've done, you know, we're a few implementations now. We're helping our customers, and we'd certainly be happy to help you and answer any questions that you have. Thanks, folks.